My influencer sister asked me to postpone my pregnancy so I wouldn't overshadow her wedding. Days later, her fiancé left, her career collapsed, and the perfect life she curated online finally started to unravel. My influencer sister suggested I postpone my pregnancy to avoid overshadowing her wedding day. Just a few days later, her fiancé departed and her career trajectory crumbled. My sister has always been Sienna. Frankly, I struggle to articulate her accurately. You would truly need to witness, hear, and coexist with her to grasp what I mean. As the youngest of 3 daughters, she received princess-like treatment from an early age, an ideal recipe for a genuine prima donna. She grew up believing the world ought to revolve around her. When Sienna cried as a child, all our family plans would shift. If she desired something, she invariably found a way to obtain it. Whether it was my birthday or our parents' anniversary, I never much minded. I've always been quite independent. I pursued my own interests and she pursued hers. Sienna always favored grand gestures, lavish birthday celebrations, elaborate themed getaways, and more recently, live streams engaging tens of thousands of viewers. She now thrives as an influencer, crafting lifestyle and wedding content, meaning every aspect of her existence is broadcast through elegant filters on TikTok and Instagram. Sienna perceives life as a cinematic production, with herself, naturally, in the starring role. Most of this is innocuous, sometimes even entertaining. However, there are moments when she oversteps, and on this occasion, she went entirely too far. Last year, she became engaged to Ryan, a young physician universally well-regarded. Their engagement celebration unfolded in a Napa vineyard, quintessential Sienna. Twinkling lights, an alfresco reception, imported blooms, and a dedicated film crew documenting everything for YouTube vlogs. At that time, I was 3 months pregnant. My husband, Eric, and I had meticulously planned and were ecstatic about our impending arrival. We hadn't yet announced it publicly, only to close relatives. Sienna was among the first I informed. There seemed no reason to keep it from her, and Mom would have made a big fuss if she discovered Sienna hadn't been told. I envisioned her being genuinely happy for me. She offered a smile and a congratulations, but it lacked sincerity. As the festivities continued, Sienna drew me aside to a secluded spot for a private discussion, and that's when things began to unravel. She led me to the vineyard's rear, where the film crew was on a break. Nearby, a pink LED-illuminated koi pond served as a visual highlight for the engagement video. She commenced with her familiar preamble about the wedding needing to be absolutely flawless, declaring it the most pivotal day of her life. Sienna prioritized the live stream audience above the man she was marrying. Accustomed as I was to Sienna's self-absorbed monologues, I initially paid little attention. She expounded on the wedding attire, the necessity of guests' skin tones complementing the pastel theme, and the TikTok engagement metrics for the video. I simply stood there, nodding obligingly. Then, abruptly, she steered the conversation towards my pregnancy. "I'm truly happy for you," Sienna remarked, glancing towards the camera awaiting them in the tent. "A baby is wonderful, but what if it diverts attention from my wedding day?" I blinked, assuming I'd misheard. She continued, as if recommending a dessert choice. "I mean, you can have a baby anytime, but I only have one wedding, and yours is happening right around the same period. I'm concerned people will discuss the baby more than my gown." I found myself speechless. She lifted her chin and spoke gently, like proposing a menu item. "I merely wondered if you might consider postponing the pregnancy. I mean, you're still young." Sienna offered a soft smile and added, "Think of it as a small wedding present. You can have another child whenever, and I only get one wedding, at least as it's currently envisioned." It felt like a physical blow. She was genuinely requesting that I consider terminating my pregnancy so it wouldn't disrupt her visual aesthetic for her sponsored, live-streamed wedding. In that moment, I grasped that I wasn't dealing with a childish younger sister, but a mature woman absolutely serious in her request for her biological sibling to sacrifice an unborn child to remain the unchallenged focal point of her extravagant, sponsored event. I simply patted her shoulder with a feigned laugh, saying, "That joke's a bit much," and walked away. Yet, deep down, I knew she wasn't jesting. In the ensuing days, that conversation haunted me. Initially, I convinced myself Sienna must have been a bit tipsy, stressed by a departing wedding planner, or fatigued by the glare of stage lights. But the more I pondered it, the more I realized something was profoundly amiss. She wasn't inebriated. She knew precisely what she was articulating, and worst of all, she believed she was being entirely reasonable. Eric noticed my tension and inquired about my distress. I hadn't planned to tell him, but eventually I did. He fell silent, then whispered, "She's lost her mind." I had never witnessed Eric so furious, not even during heated disagreements with his former boss or when our contractor botched our kitchen renovation. This time, he paced our living room, hands clenched into fists, appearing ready to strike a wall. "Why didn't you tell me immediately?" he demanded, his voice trembling with indignation. I merely shrugged. Perhaps I couldn't process it yet. Or maybe I feared that vocalizing it would solidify its awful reality. We resolved to distance ourselves from Sienna for a while. I canceled the bridesmaid dress fitting she had scheduled and ignored texts from her assistant inquiring about loose maternity dress options for a pregnant guest. Sienna never explicitly revisited her earlier demand, but continued dropping unsubtle hints via Instagram DMs. "You still haven't posted your pregnancy online, have you? Perhaps I'll wait until after the wedding to avoid diverting attention. Or, if you'd prefer something very loose to conceal your belly, just say the word. My stylist can assist." She presented these suggestions as if offering a favor, a gracious gesture from a renowned younger sister. But her true desire was evident: for me to remain silent, obscure my bump, and fade from the camera's view. As time progressed, I felt increasingly stifled. Sienna wasn't merely self-absorbed. She treated people as mere props in her personal spectacle. Meanwhile, I was nurturing a nascent life within me for the first time, feeling utterly connected to something far grander than myself. Her sole concern was views, sponsors, and ensuring her wedding wasn't photobombed by her sister's pregnant abdomen. I began to worry how far she might go if I remained quiet. I tried to dismiss these thoughts, telling myself I was overreacting. Perhaps Sienna was simply overwhelmed by wedding stress and temporarily lost her composure. But each time I recalled her actually begging me to consider an abortion merely to keep her wedding on brand, a shiver ran down my spine. Eric, conversely, could not contain his indignation. He declared, "If anyone else had said that to you, I would block them and never speak to them again." But this was my sister, whom I had cradled as a newborn, protected from school bullies, and stayed up all night helping with college presentations. And suddenly, she viewed the child I carried as a social gaffe that needed to be digitally erased from her perfect image. Less than a week later, everything began to unravel, not because of me, but due to Sienna herself. She shared a slightly agitated video on her Instagram story, vaguely referencing selfish family members, individuals who don't champion others' careers, and those who believe they're the universe's core simply because they are pregnant. I was aghast. She intended to present her version of events online first. I hadn't yet informed anyone else in the family, but the video rapidly circulated. One of my close friends, Maya, who follows Sienna out of curiosity, emailed me the story, asking, "She's talking about you, right? This is escalating." Maya anonymously posted the incident on Reddit. My influencer sister asked me to get an abortion, so I wouldn't overshadow her wedding. The post went viral overnight, garnering thousands of upvotes and over 5,000 comments, mostly expressing shock, indignation, or simple astonishment that anyone could entertain such a thought. People were analyzing, debating, and disseminating it everywhere. Sienna called me the next morning, not to apologize, but to shriek into the phone, accusing me of betrayal, of damaging the image she had meticulously built over 3 years, and claiming that businesses were pausing collaborations due to the post. I remained silent throughout her tirade. Afterward, I uttered a single statement. "I didn't write that post, but if you think I did, perhaps deep down you recognize who actually committed an egregious act." I hung up, not feeling relief, but not as deeply wounded as before. Perhaps the sharpest pain had receded, leaving only a cold, profound disappointment. She wasn't contrite. She was merely furious about being exposed. I anticipated it would end with social media, but such drama rarely does. Just days after the Reddit post exploded, Sienna's brand partner, a clean cosmetics company, subtly removed her name from their website. A gossip page dedicated to unmasking influencers reposted Sienna's original story with the caption, "Someone should remind her that being a decent human is also a good content concept." The comment section became a nightmare for Sienna, with people demanding she be cancelled, naming sponsors, and urging them to sever ties. I still hadn't spoken to our parents, partly because I didn't know where to begin, and partly because I was too weary to recount it all. But ultimately, Ryan disclosed everything, not me. Ryan, Sienna's fiancé, contacted me one afternoon as Eric and I were folding baby clothes. His voice was subdued, almost unsettling. "Hey, Clara, can I ask you something?" I paused my task. I had never had a genuinely private conversation with Ryan beyond brief greetings at family gatherings. "Sienna says you fabricated everything, that you're just envious and trying to sabotage the wedding, but I don't truly believe her. I need to hear it directly from you." I recounted everything meticulously. There was no need for embellishment. The truth was sufficiently appalling. I simply articulated it as it had happened. Ryan remained silent for a considerable time. Then he sighed, clearly exhausted. "She told me you two had a minor disagreement over a party dress." His voice dropped. "But this isn't about a dress. This is about integrity." After that phone call, I knew nothing would ever be quite the same. A few days later, my mother called, her voice severe. "What did you say to Ryan that caused him to postpone the wedding?" I attempted to stay calm, but she swiftly launched into an attack. "You know how sensitive she is about being on camera. Why would you make things harder for your sister? She lives for her public image. And you're pregnant." I spoke only one sentence. "I'm pregnant, Mom. I'm not ending my baby's life just to make my sister look better on camera." And then I hung up. That night, Eric embraced me tightly. He said nothing, but lovingly stroked my hair as I wept into his shoulder. I grieved for my little sister, who had long since vanished. I grieved for a family I could no longer recognize. And I cried because I knew the drama was only just commencing. Sienna began to lose control of the online narrative. She reacted precisely as I expected, by adopting the victim role. She filmed a TikTok in her typical get-ready-with-me format, but her voice was shaky, her eyes unfocused, and mascara streamed down her cheeks. "Hey everyone, someone truly close to me fabricated falsehoods just to ruin the wedding I've dreamed of my entire life," she murmured, her voice quivering as she applied foundation. "They don't comprehend how stressful it is to be an influencer. I merely asked them to perhaps consider delaying a few small matters, and now everyone has turned against me." The video rapidly went viral, but instead of eliciting sympathy, it intensified the backlash. Former supporters of Sienna began to speak out. They resurrected old anecdotes about her having previously criticized a friend online, demanding someone remove wedding photographs that clashed with her wardrobe theme, or pressuring a close friend to reschedule a birthday party that interfered with her filming schedule. A fact-checking fan page even compiled previous recordings and descriptions, including one in which Sienna allegedly instructed a stylist to Photoshop a baby out of a family vacation photo from the previous year. The deeper they delved, the more incriminating details surfaced. What had once seemed like mere gossip now had proof: Sienna's own statements, clips, and posts. When a former close friend came forward alleging Sienna had urged her to have an abortion in college to avoid jeopardizing her senior fashion project, the public reaction finally drove her to retreat. A major brand announced the termination of their partnership with Sienna via an Instagram story. 2 additional beauty brands followed suit, along with a detox drink firm and the wedding florist sponsor, all severing connections due to conflicting ideals. I began receiving texts from family members. "Did you truly write that post? Why did you let this escalate so far? Sienna is being destroyed." I didn't reply because, truthfully, I didn't need to do anything. Sienna had orchestrated her own downfall. Ryan remained silent. I knew he was contemplating his options, and Sienna began to spiral. She deleted dozens of Instagram posts, unfollowed brands she had previously collaborated with, and started sharing cryptic comments such as, "If they don't stand by you at your worst, they don't merit you at your best." But this time, no one offered encouragement. There were no words of solace, no sorrowful emojis, just a wall of silence and an undeniable sense of public humiliation. I have yet to hear from Ryan since the online maelstrom. Sienna persisted in her charade, crying on Instagram and attempting to manipulate the story to portray herself as the injured party. However, anyone with eyes, ears, and a shred of discernment could see who the real victim was. Then, one Thursday afternoon, Eric received a message from Ryan. "Can we meet briefly?" "Nothing about Sienna. I just need to talk to someone normal." The two met at a small coffee shop near Ryan's hospital. Eric told me Ryan looked utterly drained, as if he had just recovered from a protracted illness. His clothes were rumpled, and his eyes were ringed with weariness. He sat there, gripping his coffee cup as if it were his only anchor to reality. "I used to think Sienna was just a little self-centered," Ryan remarked softly. "We met back when she only had a few thousand followers. She was sweet, full of energy, but the closer we got to the wedding, the more I realized I don't even know who she is anymore." Eric remained quiet, allowing him to speak. "At first, I thought perhaps your sister misunderstood something," Ryan continued. "But now everything aligns. Not just the abortion request, it's how she reacted. She's not sorry for harming people, she's just angry she got exposed." Ryan confessed he had meticulously planned the proposal for an entire year, booked the vineyard, selected a meaningful date, and hired the film crew, believing it would create a cherished memory. But he hadn't realized the woman he loved viewed affection as a live-streamed event where engagement metrics and sponsorships held more weight than genuine emotions. He claimed Sienna had become increasingly domineering. She demanded to know his daily schedule, insisted on his phone password, and compelled him to unfollow female coworkers to maintain their ideal couple facade. "I'm not sure I want to marry her anymore," Ryan confessed, his gaze distant. "I haven't vocalized it yet, but if I have to live a lie indefinitely, I'd rather cancel the wedding." That night, Eric recounted everything over dinner. "I didn't feel happiness. I didn't feel vindicated. I simply felt a profound sadness. Sadness that Ryan took so long to perceive Sienna's true nature. It was unfortunate that something as sacred as marriage had been reduced to a marketing pitch. Above all, I was relieved that Ryan was finally awakening. Perhaps not everything was entirely beyond repair, but Sienna's fairy tale wedding facade had crumbled, and nothing could restore it. Following Eric's conversation with Ryan, we decided it was time to speak with the family. Not to inflame the situation, but to break the silence Sienna was using to manipulate everyone. I called my mother, sitting upright on the couch and bracing myself for a difficult exchange. She answered instantly, her voice already laced with suspicion. "Clara, what did you say to Ryan that caused him to postpone the wedding?" I bit my lip and drew a deep breath. I just told him the truth. There was a pause on the other end, then a soft, bitter chuckle. "The truth, huh? You always believe you're right, but did you ever consider how your sister feels? She's being attacked from all sides online. Her wedding is collapsing. Her career is impacted. All because of your so-called truth." I closed my eyes and compelled my voice to remain calm. "Did you know she asked me to get an abortion?" There was silence. "Sienna's not just insensitive, Mom. She's destructive." I didn't go online and disparage her, but she went on video claiming I'm selfish, saying my pregnancy is ruining her life. She's acting like the world owes her a perfect wedding. My mother did not respond, but I knew she understood, even if she wouldn't admit it. What startled me more were the subsequent messages from other relatives. My aunt, my mother's older sister, called me and said, "Clara, I heard about everything, and you're not the first." She told me that a few years prior, Sienna had urged a pregnant cousin, Isla, not to attend a friend's wedding because her baby bump didn't match the aesthetic. Isla was heartbroken for days, but never confided in anyone, fearing family conflict. Another younger cousin wrote, "Thank you for speaking up." She once told me I couldn't publicly date my boyfriend because he didn't fit the bestie group brand she was curating. That's when I discovered I wasn't the only one. I was simply the first who refused to remain silent. Perhaps this is why people finally started to talk. The truth began to surface like bubbles underwater, revealing previously hidden stories with astonishing clarity. The most sorrowful part was that the only one who refused to look in the mirror was Sienna herself. Sienna had always believed she possessed complete dominion over everything. In her perception, if the filter was correct, the caption sufficiently poignant, and the lighting flawless, any mishap could be reframed into a tear-jerking narrative. But this time, no one mourned for her, and no staging was potent enough to obscure the truth. As corporations continued to openly suspend agreements, Sienna shifted her strategy. She began posting healing journey videos, complete with melancholic piano music, flickering candles, and the adage, "Sometimes the ones closest to us hurt us the most." She asserted she meditated, read self-help books, and released turmoil to concentrate on inner peace, before concluding the video with an affiliate link to a discounted yoga mat. However, the internet was no longer so easily manipulated. Former loyal fans now openly ridiculed her, letting go of negativity with a 15% discount code. One comment with over 12,000 likes declared, "Sienna needs therapy, not more followers." Another user remarked, "The more she tried to salvage her image, the more she became a punchline." Ryan remained utterly silent. He did not post, defend, or take sides, and his quietude spoke volumes. Then, a week before the wedding, Sienna shared a photograph of a bridal bouquet with a comment, "Whether people stay or leave, I'll still love myself the most." The responses were lukewarm attempts at encouragement from her few remaining acquaintances. "Stay strong, girl. You deserve a happy ending." But I knew, and perhaps Sienna did too, that it was truly over. Ryan sent me a single message that night. "Thank you for not staying silent like everyone else." I did not reply. I didn't need to. Words spread immediately. Ryan had moved out of their apartment, packed his belongings, canceled the wedding hotel reservation, and informed the wedding planner. Services are no longer required. Sienna later shared a 7-second video to her story, which left viewers stunned. She sat at her vanity, eyes swollen, staring directly into the camera. Her voice, "Everyone's left me." There was no caption, no music, no promotional code. Sienna was underperforming for the first time. And for the first time, I watched her genuinely break down. Not because of a wedding or a loss of followers, but because her own shadow had long since engulfed whatever was real inside her. Sienna's wedding never materialized. There was no live feed, no couture ensemble, and no first look video captured during golden hour. All that remained was a brief Instagram post. Due to personal reasons, the event is postponed indefinitely. She did not tag Ryan. She offered no explanation. For the first time in years, Sienna's account was silent. No background music, no laughter, no exquisitely sculpted smiles beside pink cocktails. Only a hollow stillness. I didn't feel joyful. Honestly, I felt relieved, but not triumphant, because ultimately, she is still my sister. And a part of me still aches when I recall the little girl who would chase me around the yard, wailing after a tumble. The same little sister who would slip handwritten notes under my pillow after an argument with our parents. But that same little girl matured in a virtual realm where every glance and heart reaction held more significance than reality. And she relinquished everything, family, love, even her integrity, to cling to a fleeting illusion known as the perfect image. I maintained my distance. No calls or texts. My mother called me again after everything, her voice softer than usual. I think maybe I spoiled her too much. I didn't respond, not out of anger, but because sometimes silence is the clearest reply. Meanwhile, Eric remained steadfastly by my side, never missing a prenatal checkup. He adjusted his schedule, making time to take me for walks, play music for the baby, and read to my belly. All the small gestures that felt so comforting and grounding. Amidst the chaos, I felt more at peace than ever. 8 weeks later, I gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. We named him Elijah, meaning, "My God is my strength," and he truly is the light in the storm, keeping me anchored when everything else around me disintegrated. I did not invite Sienna to the hospital. She sent just one message: "Congratulations." I don't know what else to say. I didn't respond, not out of bitterness, but because some fissures, once sufficiently deep, should not be mended with belated apologies. Perhaps someday she will genuinely transform. Who knows? But until that day arrives, I'll keep my son away from the drama and from anyone whose affection is always conditional.